Hi there, I'm Sara Thomas, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Teaching Without a Book. In today's episode, we're going to learn how to create self-checking assessments so that students can check their own work. Besides saving you time, there are several benefits for using self-checking assessments. First, students will get immediate feedback on their work, and research shows that feedback on student work should be given as soon as possible to maximize learning. Teaching your students to check their own work gives them ownership over their learning, and it helps you develop a classroom culture that values the process of learning over just getting the right answers. When self-assessments are paired with a reflection opportunity, students begin to develop an awareness about their learning, where they are in the process, what their struggles are, and what it is that they need to be able to learn best. And as educators, we're working to help our students become their own advocates for learning, and self-assessments are a great way to begin this process. I know you might be thinking, but if I give them all the answers, then how will I know if they're actually learning? Well, you will know that they're getting the learning because you're also giving other formative checks along the way. You're not only giving self-assessments. Self-assessments are a great tool, but they are just one tool. You as the teacher need to know if your students are getting the learning or not, and you'll do that through regular formative checks. In situations where you find that you might have a student who is moving themselves along the content, saying that they're doing well on all their self-assessments, but then you give them a formative check and they don't perform so well, this becomes a great teachable moment for that student. And it goes back to creating a culture in your classroom that values the process of learning. As a system, we have taught our students that learning means having all the right answers. And in doing so, we've created a mindset in our students that they need to work really hard to be right, rather than working really hard to learn. Learning is messy, it's sloppy, and it's not linear. So we need to take some steps to help reshape that mindset in our students, where we're building resiliency in the process of learning. When you hand your student all the answers right up front, it creates a whole new purpose for students to have understanding and to know the why, not just to have the right answers. So if you're ready to start transforming your classroom culture into one that values sloppy, messy, non-linear learning, then let's dig in and get started. First, we're going to build an example of a multiple choice type of activity. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my waffle and open up Google Slides, and I'm going to choose a blank, and I'm going to get rid of all the themes. If you've been around this channel, you know that I start from scratch. And I'm going to title it Multiple Choice Self-Check. So now I'm going to come up and I'm going to go to the file, and I'm going to go down to page setup, and I'm going to change it from widescreen to the standard view. And now I have a regular 11 by 8.5 page, like a landscape view of a page. So I'm going to create a text box. My first slide is going to be sort of the introduction slide. I'm going to put that in the middle, and maybe I'm going to call it Math Madness. Anytime you can give it a fun, funky name, already it's going to help the kids feel like it's more gamified. I like to use that Century Gothic font just because it's easily read by the students and it's neat and clean. So we probably can go bigger than this, so maybe like 60, because this is like the introduction slide, and I'm going to move it down. I'm not going to make this fancy because I do have a video that teaches you how to create resources that are cute and fun with the clip art and all the other things, and I will link that in the description to this video. But today I just want to focus on how to make these interactive self-checking activities. Once you have your title, you're going to want to provide some directions, and so I might just put solve the number sentence on each slide. Click the number that matches your answer. Format that a little bit so it's a little bigger. So now I'm going to duplicate this slide by highlighting it over on the left by hitting Command-C or Control-C for a PC. I'm using a Mac. And then clicking underneath it, you can see that orange line. I'm going to hit Command-V, or you can hit Control-V if you are on a PC. Now I don't have to reformat the font and the text and all of that. I'm going to get rid of the directions. And now I'm going to take the text box that was for the title of the activity, and I'm going to turn it into my first number sentence. So I'm just going to reformat 5 plus 3 3 equals, and then a question mark. Here's the number sentence we want our students to solve. Now what we're gonna do is we are gonna come up to insert, and we're gonna insert a table. Generally, multiple choice has 4 choices, and so I'm gonna pick 2 by 2 so that I have a table of 4 squares. I am going to resize so that the boxes are a little bit bigger. And now I'm going to also highlight it, and I'm gonna come up to the little pen where you can see that it's light gray. I'm gonna change it to black so it's a little easier to see the lines, and I'm even gonna come up here to the border weight, and I'm gonna choose number 3 so that it's a little thicker. Now, again, we're not gonna get real fancy, but if you wanted to, you can come in and you can change the background of the different answer choices if you wanted to, so that way the choices stand out a little bit. So to make it easy and save time, we're gonna highlight all the boxes, and we're gonna come up here and we're gonna choose align, and we're gonna choose the middle option, and then we're gonna come back up here again, and then I'm gonna choose that I want it in the middle vertically as well. Then I can come up to my fonts and I can decide what font I want all of the answers to be in, or maybe you just want your fonts to match. What you're gonna do now is you're gonna go through and you are going to put 4 different answer choices, obviously one of them being the correct answer choice, and then the other 4 being the incorrect answer choice. Okay, so those are super tiny. So now we're gonna highlight all the boxes, and we're gonna just kind of try to guess and see how big we can get them without them being too big. And that looks pretty good. And so now we have our number sentence that we want the students to solve, and we have 4 different answer choices. Now I'm gonna copy that first slide again, and I'm going to come under problem slide that I just made, and I'm gonna paste it. Command C and Command V, or Control C, Control V. I'm gonna get rid of the directions, and I'm gonna change my text, and I'm just copying and pasting these slides so that I'm not constantly starting over and reformatting the fonts. And this one is going to say, great job, okay? And then we can say click here to move on. So now this is the slide that students will see if they choose the correct answer. And so I like to make the background of it green, kind of like go on. And what we're going to do is we're going to change here so that it will end up becoming a hyperlink, and we're going to connect it to the next problem. We're going to create the next problem so that we can make that hyperlink, because right now we don't have another problem to link this great job slide to. So we're gonna come up to our last problem that we created, and again, copy, and we're gonna paste it underneath our great job slide. And now we can just change it up to whatever we want this to be. Now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna edit all of my answer choices to make sure that there is one that's correct and then the other 3 are not. So now let's kind of go back and regroup. So I'm gonna go look to my left where all of my slides are in order. I've created my intro slide, which has the title and the directions. Slide number 2 is the first problem. The next slide is the slide that sends the kids who choose the right answer to the next problem, which is right here underneath that slide. So this is problem number 2. So we need to be able to link this problem to this slide so that the kids can move to the next problem. So we're gonna do that by highlighting the word here, or click here, because we want them to click there. That's what the text is telling them to do. And I'm gonna go to the little insert link, and I'm going to choose where it says next slide, because the next slide is the question I want them to go to. So you can see now that the text has this weird color that it automatically sets to. So I like to highlight it and just change it to white so that it stands out, because if it's black, the kids don't notice that it's different. And this is just another way so that it will stand out a little bit more. So now at this point, if we go to present mode, if we click here, it takes us to the next problem so that the kids can now solve the next problem. But now we're gonna go back to our first problem here, because now we have to link the correct answer to the great job slide. A lot of back and forth, but after we do this a couple of times, it'll click. So the correct answer, of course, is 8. And so we are going to highlight the number 8, and we are going to create a hyperlink, and we are going to say next slide, because the next slide is the slide for the correct answer. And then I'm just gonna go through, change the text color, but I'm also gonna remove the line line underneath it, just so that it looks like a normal number. But when we go to present mode, you can see that when the kids pick the correct answer, it takes them to the correct answer, move on slide, and now they can click here, and now they're on question number 2. So to recap, we created problem number 1, and then the slide for the correct answer. Then we created problem number 2. But now we have 3 other answer choices that are not correct. So what we're going to do is we are going to create a slide for incorrect answer choices now. So to do that, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to copy the great job slide and I'm going to paste it under the second problem. I'm going to change the text and it's going to say, oops, try again. And then it's going to say, click here, but it's going to say to go back. And then I like to make this slide background either red or pink. Now, right now, because we copied and pasted it, this link is actually linked to problem number 2. So we're going to remove that because we're going to create a new link. This link is going to take us back to the problem number 1 because when they get this slide, they need to go back to problem number 1 and try to figure out the correct answer. So I'm going to highlight, click here, and I'm going to choose my hyperlink. I'm going to go back to problem number 1, which if we look over to the left is actually slide number 2. So now we're getting to the point where we have a lot of slides. So we're going to have to connect hyperlinks by slide number. So we're going to connect the oops slide back to problem number 1 to get the kiddos back to the problem that they need to take another look at. And that is slide number 2. You see right here, that's not a choice, but we can just type it in, slide 2. And this color is like horrible. So I'm going to just fix that to the white. So now when we go to present mode, if we click this, it takes them right back to problem number 1 where they can then check their answer. So we have our oops slide ready to go to take the kids back to the problem. Now we need to connect all of our wrong answers to the oops slide. So we're going to hyperlink the number 2, the number 1, and the number 9 because those are all the incorrect answers to the red oops slide. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to hyperlink each of these numbers to the red oops slide by highlighting the number and coming to the link. I'm going to choose the slide that's my oops slide for this math problem, which is slide number 5. I can tell based on where it is over on the left side of my slides. And it's not a choice here, so I'm just going to type it in, slide 5, and I'm going to pick slide number 5, and then I'm going to just fix it so that it's black and there is no underline so that you can't even tell that it's like hyperlinked. I'm going to go and do the same thing with number 1 and number 9. So now all of the numbers are hyperlinked. Number 2 and number 1 and number 9 will take our students to the oops slide because those are the incorrect answers. When they choose the number 8, it takes them to the slide that will bring them to problem number 2. So let's take a look at what this looks like from the student's perspective so far. Here's our introduction slide, and then they go to problem 1. Now pretend that I accidentally subtract and I choose 2. Oops, try again. And so now we can click here to go back and it's taking me back to problem number 1. And then I realized, I mixed up my sign. I need to add. And so now I choose 8 and it is the correct answer. And so now it says click here to move on. And so I do. And now I am at my next problem. Okay, so let's do problem number 2 we already have created. We need to make a great job, click here to move on slide for problem number 2. And we need to create an oops slide for problem number 2. So I'm going to copy the great job slide that I used for number 1 by coming to the left and clicking on the slide and hitting Command or Control C. And I'm going to come all the way down underneath this red oops slide and I'm going to paste it, Control V or Command V. And I can leave everything the same except for the hyperlink because the hyperlink needs to take us to the next problem that we're going to be creating. I'm just going to remove that hyperlink just so that I don't forget that I need to still put the correct one in there because I don't want this slide taking kids back to the same slide that they just did. Now we need to make problem number 3 so that when the kids click here to move on, they can move on to the next problem. So we're going to leave this slide just for a bit while we go and create problem number 3. And I'm going to do that by copying and pasting either my first or second problem. It doesn't matter. All I know is I don't want to recreate the whole thing from scratch. And I'm going to paste it under the great job slide. And now I can change my number sentence and my answers. Okay, so now I have problem number 3. So now I need to connect this slide to my great job slide, because once the kids choose the correct answer from problem number 2, I want them to click here to move on to that next problem. So I highlight click here and I'm going to go to my link. And now when I look over on the side, problem number 3 is on slide 7. So I could just put in slide 7 and pick that one. And I'm just going to reformat my text. And now if we check it, it takes them to problem 3. Now we need to link our correct answer slide back to problem number 2's correct answer. Problem number 2 is back here on slide number 4. And our correct answer for 5 minus blank equals 1 is 4. So I'm going to highlight the 4 and I'm going to go to my hyperlink and I'm going to link it to slide number 6, slide 6, and reformat. Now we have problem number 2, and we have the correct answer all set and linked to the slide that will take students to problem number 3. Now we need to make the slide that is the oops, try again slide that will send them back to this problem if they choose number 6, number 5, or number 2. So let's copy and paste our other oops slide. And we're just going to put it right down here underneath problem 3. And all I need to do now is change this hyperlink by going back up to the link. I'm going to get rid of the slide here that it's actually linked to, because this is taking kids back to the problem number 1 and we want this to take them back to problem number 2. So problem number 2 over here, if we look again at our slides, it is slide number 4. So I can choose slide 4 and I'm going to link that and I'm just going to check it. And yep, it takes us back to problem number 2, exactly what we wanted. The last thing we need to do is go back to our problem number 2 and link all of our incorrect answer choices to our oops, try again slide. Here's where you need to start being careful, because things are getting spaced out a little bit. And so when we look to the side, we need to make sure that we are connecting to the slides that take them to the right places. So just always be checking to make sure that everything is linked appropriately. Slide number 8 is the slide that we created to send our kiddos back to problem number 2 for the incorrect answer choice. So we're going to go through and we are going to take all of our incorrect answer choices and link them to the oops slide. I'm going to do that by highlighting the number again, like I did before, coming to the hyperlink button, and I'm going to put in slide number 8 because that's our oops slide, and I'm going to choose that and I'm going to reformat. And now I'm going to go through and do that for the rest of the incorrect answers. All right, so let's take a look at our activity from the beginning. Here is our introduction slide, and we move to problem number 1. So I'm going to choose an incorrect answer, and it takes me to the oops slide. And I click, and it takes me back to check my work. I choose the correct answer, and it brings this slide where I can move on to number 2. So I click here, and now I'm at problem number 2. And so maybe I choose the incorrect answer over here, and here's my oops slide for problem number 2, which will link me back to problem number 2 so that I can check my answer. So all of these incorrect answers are going to lead me straight back to problem number 2. But when I choose the correct answer, it will bring me to this screen where I can then move on to problem number 3. Now at this point, you would just continue to repeat what we've been doing. I suggest, because of all of the flip-flopping back and forth between slides, that you go back to this portion of the video and you create your first multiple choice activities right along with me and pause the video where you need it. The next thing I'm going to show you how to do is to make fluency self-checking activities. This is especially great for math facts, but also vocabulary words or any other sort of flashcard activity. So I'm going to go to Google Slides and I'm going to open a new presentation and I'm going to get rid of all of the predetermined things. I'm going to title this flashcards. And when I make digital flashcards, I actually just leave them right here in the widescreen because I feel like it looks more like a giant flashcard. We're going to just stick with math to keep it simple. I'm just going to create one text box and I'm going to try to sort of just put it in the middle, and I'm going to format it so that my text is in the center both horizontally and vertically. And I'm going to change my font to Century Gothic because it's nice and clear. And I'm going to do, let's say, multiplication. So let's say that we're going to do our 2's facts. 2 times 1 equals. So that's tiny on our big old flashcard. So let's go ahead and reformat it so that it fits.
Now for flashcards, I do actually like to change the color just because I feel like the slide itself is supposed to look like a flashcard, but then the margin of our slideshow is also kind of white, and so I feel like it's a little hard to sort of tell that this is like a flashcard. So I'm gonna go to the background and I'm just gonna choose a different color. This bright turquoise is fun. You can create so that all of your different math facts are different colors. So like your 2s could be turquoise and your 3s could be purple, and however you wanna do that. I'm gonna copy and I'm gonna paste this as many times as I need for all the flashcards that I'm gonna make. So I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna make all my flashcards first. I'm gonna copy by hitting Command C or Control C if you're using a PC, and then clicking under the slide over here on the left and hitting Command or Control V, and you can just do a bunch of pasting. Now I don't have to copy it again, it's still remembered, so I just have to keep clicking under it and hitting Control or Command V. Okay, so that will give me enough to go through 12. Now I'm gonna click on slide number 2, and all I need to do is go and change it to a 2. And I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna edit each of them and just reformat so that I have all of my different flashcards. So now I have an entire set of flashcards. We need to create our correct answers. To make it easy, I'll just copy and paste one more slide under my last flashcard. And now I'm just gonna put the answer for the first flashcard in the middle, which is 2. If you want, you can go ahead and make this one a little bit bigger just because it's only one number on the page. Then you're gonna go through and you're gonna make copies so that you have enough for all of your answers. So you're gonna make the same number of copies of your answer card as you are of all of your flashcards. So I'm gonna copy this answer card and I'm gonna paste it underneath, and I'm just gonna keep pasting until I have enough. And so now I can go through and I can edit all of my answer cards. Okay, so now I have all of my answers and I have all of my flashcards. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna link my flashcard to the answer. So I need something for the kids to know to click on that will take them to the answer for them to check. So generally for a flashcard like this, I just like to add a little question mark, and I'm gonna link it to the answer by highlighting the question mark. And then I need to scroll down along the side of all of my slides here so that I can see what number slide my answer is. And it's slide number 13. So I'm gonna go to my link, I'm gonna type in slide 13, and I'm gonna choose it from the choices. And now of course I don't want it to actually look like this, so I'm just going to change the text color and get rid of the underline. Okay, and so now if I go to present mode, I can try it out. So when they click, they see the answer too. But now we have a problem, right? Because they don't have a way to get to the next flashcard, and we need them to be able to go to their next flashcard. Let's get out of presentation mode, and we're gonna go to our answer card, and we have to be able to connect this answer card to our next flashcard, which would be 2 times 2 if we're gonna go in order. There's a couple ways you can do this. You can just link the answer right to the next flashcard, or you can add text on the bottom that says click here or whatever. I like to just embed the hyperlink right into the answer. So I'm gonna go to my hyperlink, and then I'm gonna come back over now all the way up to my flashcards, and I'm gonna look at flashcard number 2 here is 2 times 2, and it's on slide number 2. I'm gonna type in slide 2, and I'm gonna choose that, and I'm gonna fix all the nonsense. And now if I go to present, when I click the 2, it should take me to the next flashcard. So now what we need to do is for flashcard number 2, we're going to add our little question mark, and then we're going to create our hyperlink to take them to the answer, which is on slide number 14. And so I go to my link, I type in slide 14, choose it, fix it, and then that will take them to the answer. Now we have to hyperlink our answer to our next flashcard. So I'm gonna make a link, and it's gonna go to slide number 3 because that's where our next flashcard is. So I will type in slide 3 and choose that. Let's start from the beginning and see how we're doing here. So this is what the kids see when they come into the presentation. It looks just like a giant flashcard. And when they think they have their answer, they're gonna hit the question mark, and it will take them to the answer so that they can check themselves. And then whether they're right or wrong, they're seeing the correct answer. Then when they click the answer, it takes them to the next flashcard. And then they can check the number in their brain by clicking on the question mark, and it takes them to the correct answer. And then they can move on to the next one. And then to finish the flashcard deck, I would just go through and continue to add my question marks and hyperlink to the answers, and then hyperlink the answers to the next flashcard. So far I've showed you different self-checking activities where the answers are embedded into the same slideshow. This example is of a sort that has already been pre-created. I'm going to show you how to make this self-checking by linking it to an answer key. I'm not going to show you actually how to build this digital sort because in part 2 of my Learning Pathways series, it does show you how to build a digital sort. So if you're interested in learning how to create the sort itself, then you can go back and you can watch that video on creating Student Pathways part 2 because it will show you how to do that there. So we're going to start with a pre-created sort. In an actual activity that I would give to my students, I would have more number sentences for them to sort out, but for the sake of time, I just created a few just so that you could get the gist of the idea. So this is what the kids would work through. First, you're going to create a space where you're going to show the kids that there is an answer key somewhere. We're going to do that by creating a text box. I'm going to say click here to check your answer, and I might put it on the bottom. Okay, so now you can see that's super hard to read, so we're going to just do some formatting. When I highlight my text, I can come up to the little bucket. I can make it white so that it pops out a little bit. I can also give it a border. I can choose number 3 so it's a little thicker, and I can even choose the color of my border here. So if I didn't want it to be black, I could change it to any of these colors. I'm just going to leave it black though. And then I'm also going to take my text and I'm going to center it in the middle. So now we have ourselves set up to create the hyperlink. We are now going to create a copy of this whole activity, and we're going to do that by going to File, Make a Copy of the entire presentation. Now it says Copy of Self-Checking Sort. I'm going to get rid of Copy of, and I'm going to call it the Self-Checking Sort Answer Key. And now I have a whole new activity that is a duplicate of the one that the kids will get. Now I can go and I can complete the activity so that it's done correctly. I'm just going to drag and drop just like the kids would. Now this will be my answer key. I have done it correctly so that the kids can check their answers. Now I'm actually going to just get rid of this text box down here because we're not actually going to create a link for the kids to click to go back to their original problem. And that's because this time our answer key is outside of the original presentation. And because when you share this activity with your students, you're going to have to share a different copy with each of them. The answer key link would go back to the one original copy. It wouldn't go back to each of the students' copies. Each student is going to have their own copy of this activity, and you wouldn't be able to link the answer key back to all of those different copies. But what we do need to do is we need to link their copy to the answer key. So I can highlight, click here, and I can come to the answer key and grab the URL. I'm going to copy, and I'm going to paste it into the hyperlink box, and I'm going to change that color because all the kids will be using the same answer key to check their work. So let's take a look. In the sorting activity, the kids aren't going to go into presentation mode because they need to be able to see all of their little sorting pieces, the game pieces that live outside in the margins. They stay in their edit mode, but when they click here, they can still see that there's a place for them to go. So they'll click on the hyperlink that pops up, and now they can check their work, and they can flip back and forth to see what they did compared to your answer key. So that's how you can provide an answer key that's outside of the activity that you're providing, rather than embedding the answers within the same presentation.
So there you go. I hope that you found this content to be helpful and that you've learned some things that you can take and implement into your classroom right away. If you have any questions or if you want to learn more about this topic, then please just leave a comment on this video. I would also really appreciate it if you could help me to reach other teachers who might find this content valuable to them as well. And you can do that by sharing this video. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss any new episodes. Thank you so much for joining me today and for watching this video all the way to the end. Now go use those creative brains and make education amazing. See you next time.